Before we begin, let me ask you, this what if the very thoughts that exhaust you could be your doorway to peace? What if your racing mind isn't a curse, but a compass? Overthinking doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're alive. It means your soul is reaching for clarity in a noisy world. So take a moment, not to escape, but to arrive, to return to yourself, to your breath, to the present. Welcome to Mindful Footsteps. Peace be upon you, dear traveler. You've arrived, not by accident, but perhaps by quiet intention. This is Mindful Footsteps, where each breath is a beginning and each step is a return. The Buddha once said, "As rain falls equally on the just and unjust, let your heart be open to all." So I ask you, are you here seeking peace, or are you here remembering the peace you've always had? In this sacred space, we do not promise answers. We offer something more valuable: clarity. Before we begin, I gently invite you, if you find this teaching meaningful, give it a like. Share your reflection in the comments. I do read them, and so do others on this journey. Subscribe to Mindful Footsteps so that wisdom, when it whispers again, finds you. Now, take a breath, settle into stillness, and let us begin. The present is the only home you have. The past is memory, the future, a fantasy. The present is your sanctuary. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. How many moments have you missed today because your mind was somewhere else? Were you reliving a conversation from yesterday, or imagining what might go wrong tomorrow? You're not alone. Even the most powerful minds on earth, presidents, CEOs, artists, philosophers, fall into the same trap. Barack Obama once said that meditation helped him keep perspective during moments of high pressure. Why? Because presence is power. Overthinking isn't loud, it doesn't shout. It creeps in softly, like fog over a quiet meadow, until your vision is clouded and your peace is stolen. I once sat beside a young man, brilliant, capable, and utterly tormented. He just lost his job and was consumed by the echoing voices in his mind. What did I do wrong? Will anyone ever hire me again? Am I falling behind in life? We sat together by the monastery pond. I asked him, "Do you see those ripples?" He nodded. I said, "Each ripple is a thought, guilt from yesterday or fear of tomorrow. But the pond itself, that is the present, still, silent, undisturbed. That is where your peace has always lived." Can you relate to that feeling? The mind racing with stories, none of which are happening right now? This is why in Buddhism, the present moment is more than a concept. It is sacred ground. And mindfulness? It is not about perfection. It is not about suppressing thought. It is the simple act of returning to your breath, to your body, to now. Let me share a story from our monastery, a small moment that holds profound truth. Every morning, one of the novices was tasked with sweeping leaves from the garden. One day he sighed, frustrated, and said, "Why do I bother? The wind just blows more leaves every day." An elder monk, listening nearby, smiled and replied, "My child, the sweeping is not for the leaves, it is for your mind." Doesn't that make you pause? How many things in life have you dismissed as meaningless, not realizing they were an invitation to awaken? Even Steve Jobs, yes, the visionary behind Apple, once said that his Zen practice was the most important tool for innovation. What he meant was this: creativity, clarity, peace, they're not found in constant doing. They arise in deep presence. So here's your practice, and I ask you to really try this today. The next time you drink tea or coffee or water, Just drink. Don't check your phone. Don't plan your next task. Just feel the warmth, the aroma, the weight of the cup in your hand. Let yourself arrive fully, because the present is not something to pass through. It is the only place you've ever truly been alive. Have you ever experienced a moment so peaceful you wished it would never end? If so, share it in the comments. I would love to read it. And so would others walking this path with us. Remember, the mind does not find stillness by escaping. It finds stillness by arriving. Let go of the illusion of control. Let me ask you something. Have you ever blamed yourself for something that was never in your hands to begin with? Years ago, a woman came to me in deep sorrow. Her only son had died in a car accident. Tears streamed down her face as she asked, "Why didn't I stop him from leaving the house that night?" That is perhaps the heaviest burden the human heart can carry, the illusion that we could have prevented the pain. But let me tell you what I told her. You didn't fail. You didn't choose this outcome. You only believed you had control when you never truly did. The Buddha once said, "Suffering does not come from the event itself, but from your attachment to how it should have been." Do you see the difference? We think it's the event that breaks us, but really, it's our resistance to it. Let me share with you a simple parable. Two men fall into a river. One panics, fights the current, struggles to stay afloat. The other lets go, floats with the current, breathes, and trusts the river to carry him. Which of the two survives? Control is not mastery, it is tension. And peace, true peace, is not about giving up. It's about surrendering with wisdom. Have you heard the story of the monk with the glass of water? He stood before his students and held up a small glass. He asked, "How heavy is this?" Some said 100 grams. Others guessed more. He smiled and said, "The weight doesn't matter. What matters is how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, it's light. If I hold it for an hour, it starts to ache. If I hold it all day, it becomes unbearable." Then he looked at them and said, "This is how suffering works. So let me ask you, as you listen now, what is the weight you've been holding for too long? What story, what regret, what expectation are you gripping even though it no longer serves you? You may think letting go is weakness, but it is not. Letting go is strength, it is clarity, it is freedom. Say this gently to yourself, even now. I do not have to carry what is not mine to control. Breathe that in. Feel the space it opens in your chest. Let go, not because it's easy, but because holding on is heavier. Simplicity is the secret door to joy. Let me offer you a question, one that's quietly transformative. What if everything you've been seeking is already here, hidden beneath the noise? In the monastery, we live with almost nothing. One robe, one bowl, one mat, and yet we laugh more than many who have much. Why? Because the weight of life does not come from lack. It comes from excess, from too many desires, too many distractions, too many unfinished thoughts, pulling at the mind like tangled threads. A young monk once turned to me and said, "Bhante, I envy your peace." I smiled gently and replied, "Then carry less." Can you feel the truth in that? This isn't about minimalism as a modern aesthetic. It's not about living in a tiny home or throwing out your belongings. This is about spiritual clarity. It is about freeing the soul from the burden of trying to become more when who you are is already enough. The Zen masters speak of shibumi, a quiet grace, a subtle beauty born from simplicity. But in the way of the Buddha, simplicity is not just elegance, it is liberation. Let me offer you a practice, not as a challenge, but as an invitation. Today, try this. Clean one drawer, but do it in silence. Let it become a meditation. Say no to one thing you feel obligated to do, but which brings no peace to your spirit. Watch the sunrise, not to capture it, but to become part of it. Do you feel how small changes clear vast spaces? Years ago, a layman came to the monastery and offered us a golden clock. It was ornate, heavy, and beautifully crafted. We bowed with gratitude and returned it. He looked confused. One of the monks gently said, "Time is sacred. We will not reduce it to decoration." There is a sacredness in stillness. There is holiness in the ordinary. So, let me ask you this. What are you holding on to that only adds noise to your life? What can you release today to return to the essence of who you are? Peace is not found by adding more. Peace arrives quietly, when we begin to subtract what no longer serves the heart. Your thoughts are not you. Have you ever watched clouds move across the sky? They shift and fade. They're never still, never permanent, but the sky remains. In the same way, you're not your thoughts. You're the vast, open sky that witnesses them. A young novice once came to me with deep guilt. "Bhante," he said, "I keep having angry thoughts. Maybe I'm not a good person." I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I took him to the temple pond. In silence, I picked up a pebble and dropped it into the water. "What do you see?" I asked. "Ripples." "And what happens to them?" "They fade." I nodded. Your thoughts are like these ripples. Let them come, let them go, but never mistake them for who you are. Let me ask you, how many thoughts have passed through your mind just today? How many of them made you feel ashamed, anxious, or confused? And how many were actually true? Every thought you have isn't a truth. Every emotion isn't a command. The mind speaks in all directions, most of them imaginary. Thoughts are only problems when we grab onto them, believe in them, and build a home inside them. But when you simply observe, without judgment, the grip begins to loosen. Say this to yourself softly. A thought is just a thought. Repeat it if you must. Say it when you're overwhelmed. Say it when your mind is loud and your heart is tired, and let it pass. Anchor in the breath. Return to the now. Let me ask you gently, when was the last time you truly noticed your own breath? Not just a sigh of exhaustion or a gasp of surprise, but the quiet rhythm of life itself. In this world that moves too quickly, your breath is the one sacred thing that never rushes. It does not judge, it does not demand. It simply invites you, again and again, to come home. When people visit our monastery, overwhelmed by stress, they often ask me, "Bhante, how can I stop the spiral of overthinking?" And I always begin with the same answer: return to the breath. Why? Because your breath is not just air, it is the thread that weaves body and mind together. The Buddha himself taught, when the breath is calm, the mind is calm. There was a mother who once came to me, unable to sleep. Her thoughts raced all night. I gave her one practice, just one. I said, "Before sleep, place your hand on your heart. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Then exhale gently for 6. She returned the next day with tears in her eyes. "Bhante," she said, "I slept. And it was the first time I felt safe in weeks." You see, we search for answers in books, in conversations, in distractions. But often, the doorway to peace is as close as your next breath. So I offer you this now, not as theory, but as a real and living practice. Try this. Inhale, 2 dots, 3 dots. Fear to hold. 1 dot, 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 2. Exhale. 2 dots, 3 dots, 4 dots. 5, 6. Feel the tension leaving your shoulders. Let the breath carry away the weight of expectation. This breath is not just survival. It is presence. It is healing. It is truth. Let me ask you again. When your mind wanders, can you follow the breath back to yourself? No matter where you are, no matter what's happening, the breath is always here, still, patient, ready to hold you. Trust impermanence. The storm will pass. Let me ask you a question that may surprise you. What if the pain you're feeling right now is already beginning to fade, even if you can't see it yet? Everything changes. The seasons shift without our permission. The moon waxes and wanes without our control. The very cells in your body are dying and renewing every single day. So too will your anxiety. So too will your grief. Even your deepest overthinking will one day become silence. I once sat beside a man in the final days of his life. His voice was weak, but his eyes were clear. He said to me, "Bhante, I spent my whole life fearing things that never came." Then, with a smile, he added, "And when real loss came, I realized even that passes." You see, impermanence is not something to dread. It is something to trust. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on. Nothing lasts, not your suffering, not your fear, not even your joy. And in that truth, there is freedom." Let me ask you now, not as a teacher, but as a companion on this path, what have you survived? What pain once felt like the end of everything, but now lives only as a memory? Can you see how far you've already come? You are already stronger than you know. You have already healed more than you realize. And if the mind tells you this will never end, you can smile and whisper back, "Nothing ever stays." The storm will pass, and after the storm comes stillness, comes clarity, comes peace. Let that be your faith today.